Ben speaking here from Outfield. Let's go ahead, right, and let's get this webinar started. As you know, right, the for today's call, we'll be kind of showing you how to set up your Outfield account. This will be imports, updates, team members, league play, send out some tasks, goals, and also calendar events as well. So, first things first, let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to flip between a few different screens during today's call, but whenever you sign up for Outfield, right, you'll be taken to a page actually before this. I went a little bit too far ahead and I had actually gone and actually left that page. But you get sent to this kind of setup page where on the sidebar, instead of seeing all of these things that you can do inside of Outfield, it will kind of walk you down and show you how to set your team up. Now, that's going to be great, especially for people that aren't looking at this webinar. But for us, one of the final options that you'll see is going to be called game time or prepare the field. You essentially just want to click on that, and then there'll be a little blue button that you'll press on. And when you click on it, you'll be brought into this page here. This is exactly what we'll be looking at. So this is a fresh account that I had just set up. I don't have any accounts in here, team members, activities, right? Nothing is inside of this account. So let's go ahead and let's just start showing you how to run some setup inside of your fresh account. So first and foremost, right, before I even want to send out invites to my team members, I want to make sure this account is built out and it's ready for them to use. So really, all this is going to be under this setup portion on our sidebar here. I click this drop down. We've got a few different options to select. I am going to go immediately into let's build out a form real quick. All right, I want to show you how our form builder works. And for more context, this account here. Let's just say we sell sparkling waters to grocery stores. And of course, right, I want some forms to capture some data when my marketers are going out there and conducting their visits. Now on this page, right, it's telling me that no form was added yet. I can click this button at the top right to start building out some of my forms. So of course, with all forms, we will need a title. Let's call this my first visit form. And here are going to be our inputs, right? These are the questions that I want to ask. You can actually ask as many questions as you want. Generally, the sweet spots, anywhere between 5 to 10, 15 at the very most. And there's going to be a few different reasons why we recommend that sweet spot. The first one is going to be the length of the forms. When your reps are going out there, they're conducting their visits. You don't want, half of their visit time to be sitting in the car or just standing in the store trying to fill out this form, right? You want these questions to be very precise, really just to get the information that you need without overloading your reps. So I'm going to build out my first question here. Well, let's say what type of account was this? And I'm going to have a few different answer choices. Now, whenever you ask your question, right, you want to think about how your reps are supposed to answer this because we do have quite a few different answer types inside of Outfield. It's going to be this drop down here, starting off with choice list. So with a choice list, this you can put in as many options as you want, right? Just as an example, I can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, since it's a choice list, I can only select one of them. Now, this is actually perfect for the type of question that I have here, right? It's either going to be, let's say, a grocery store, it can be a gas station, it can be, like a drugstore like CVS or Walgreens. That type of stuff. It can be, wholesale. Let's say, Costco, in case we're just selling our cases into that location. And my rep, right, can only select one of these answers. So here we can ask a different type of question. And let's say, what products did you pitch? Now, since I said products, right, most likely my reps are going to answer or have multiple products that they pitch. So this is where I don't want to use choice list. I actually want to use checklist instead because, like a choice list, I can have as many options as I want. However, since we are using a checklist, they can actually select as many options as they want as well. So let's say, um, Let's say, we have strawberry sparkling water, let's say cucumber sparkling water, cherry sparkling water, right? I'm just going to put down a few random choices here, and let's just say sparkling water. And now when my reps go in, right, what products do they pitch? They can select any answer they want. We have a few, as you can see, we have quite a lot of different answer choices as well. This one is going to be a checkbox, right? Checkbox questions. It's going to be really easy to understand. Think of it as a yes or no, or does this apply question. What that means is essentially you're just giving like a little box to check off, like what I'm doing right here. So, right, if it's yes or it does apply, they can check it off. If it doesn't apply, they can leave it blank. So let's let's continue on with our other question. Is going to be a number field. This is going to be it's going to be essentially allowing your reps to put down a number, right? And you're able to put in whatever units you want. So, it can be, for my cases, it could be like bottles of sparkling water, it could be cases. In your case, right, you can put in different units. However, if you don't care about the units, you can actually leave this portion blank and they'll just be able to throw in any number that they would really need. Now, most importantly, right, with these first four answer choices that I covered from choice list down to number field, is that these are going to be our quantitative questions. What that means is that these answer results can be pulled out into our analytics page. So in case you're trying to track certain metrics, you want to see which options being picked the most. You want to see your number averages, number totals, right? Make sure it is going to be in these first four answer choices here. Now, of course, you may have a question that can't have one of these types of answer choices, like, who did I speak with? Who did you speak with? And we are going to have the options of a text field and a text area. These are both text boxes. Really, there's no difference between them. It's just that the text area is going to be larger than a text field. And since I'm probably just going to be asking for a name or the row of the person I'm speaking with, I'll just need a text field to answer it. However, right, if you think that your reps will write a kind of a longer answer down, try to have it as a text area. Now we got a few more answer choices as well, right? We've got signatures, we've got photos as well. Now, something to mention is that photo questions, this will actually be pulled out into our analytics page as well, but except photos, it's going to be a little photo album for you to go through. Now, our last three ones, add task, add calendar event, and add deals, they're a little bit unique inside of Outfield. These are all things you can do, right? If you look on the sidebar, I have the tasks page, the calendar page, and the deals page. However, this just allows me to do it within my form. So since this is going to be a first visit, maybe I want them to schedule up their follow-up visit. But before I place that question in, maybe I want to see if they scheduled a follow-up visit because I want to see the percentages of, my reps getting another visit after this one. So I will say, did you schedule a follow-up visit? And of course, I'm going to have this as a choice list. Will either be yes or they didn't. And now I want them to make a calendar event. Now, something cool with our forms is that they can be conditional. So if you look to the right of all of my questions, there's always a checkbox asking, is this a conditional field? If you check it off, this is where you can add in your rules. For mine, I want to make sure that if they answer yes, so this is equal to yes, and we got a few different other rules as well. It can, not be empty, it can contain a word, and then for any questions with numbers in it, we've got, greater than or less than. But since this is a choice list, if they answer yes, I will say, please schedule your, let's say, your next visit. And so now I can add in my calendar event for them to make. Now, essentially how this works is if I answer no, this question won't appear. If I answer yes, this question will appear. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on save form, and that is going to save the form into my system. So that's going to be one part of this setup done. Next up, maybe I want to start adding in my accounts. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flip my screen here. And you should be looking at a Excel file. Now, when it comes to Outfield, right, you can manually input your accounts one by one. Let's say if you have like five. you can, just put those in one at a time. Now, if you have, let's say, a big list, you have a few hundred and you don't want to sit there, you don't want to make your reps sit there, manually fill this information out. We do have an import system as well. So what I have here is I just have an example. I know I only have 4 accounts here, but let's just say I had a massive list of accounts and I want to bulk import them all at once. We'll need it as a CSV file. And this is what the layout should look like. Um, when it comes to Outfield, right, and our importer, there are going to be some required fields. It's going to be super important for this import to work, and that is going to be the account name and its address information. So street address one, street address two, if that does apply, city, state, and zip. Now, the reason why we need these is because when we are importing your accounts, right, since this is kind of like a sales tool, we are going to have pins on the maps of those accounts. Now, in order for those pins to correctly appear, we need the full address information. So everything else you see is going to be optional, like, phone number, websites, emails as well. Then I also have another column here that's called contact because in Outfield, we have two different types of accounts. We have places, which will be, the physical accounts your team is going to. And then we've got contacts. These will be, the people working at the location, your main point of contacts. Now, let's also say that I exported this out of, let's say, my ERP or like another CRM that I'm using, or just really any other software, and I want to input that into Outfield. What may happen is that when you do, a ID may appear. Now, in our case, this is going to be an example of a default field. Think of a default field as a unique identifier. Pretty much anything here you see on my sheet that is a extra piece of information that you want to add into your account, you can actually include this in extra columns. So I have our CRM ID from, let's say, from HubSpot, but we can also throw in, the territory, the account type, um, the distributor that's at this location, maybe the distributor rep, and all those pieces of information, they don't come standard inside of Outfield. So how can we actually throw this information in correctly? Well, that's going to take me back inside of our Outfield account here, and this is where I'm going to show you how to set up default fields. To get there, it's going to be the setup dropdown, team preferences, and then our custom fields tab. And from here, you can go ahead and you can click up Set up default fields. Now, of course, I already have a few default fields set up. If it's going to be blank for you, what you want to do is click this plus button up here to actually go ahead and create a default field. So for me, I am going to call it CRM ID. That's my name, and you can actually assign a default field to different types of objects we have inside of Outfields, like places, contacts, products, and also teams as well. For my case, I'm going to keep it as places. But then we have, the field type, and we're gonna have two options. So we have a text field. This is perfect for like, those long string of IDs that you want to bring in because it's, of course, it's gonna be unique and doesn't make sense for you to have a choice list because, right, these are options. Now, you're not going to have a choice for every single ID that could possibly exist. So, choice list is great for, let's say, territories, right? Maybe you have north, south, east, and west. You would want to mark those in as a choice list instead. Now, since I'm doing a CRM ID, I just select as a text field and I can save it. Now, something to mention is that when you are importing accounts, right, you're making these default fields. You can also make a default field a priority. Really, what that means is when you go in to look at the accounts, this default field will appear like on the very first page, so front and center information for you to have. For me, right, the CRM ID isn't going to be too important inside of Outfield, but it's still nice to have it. And all I'm going to do is click on Save Default Field, and now it's in. So next up, we actually have to go and we need to import our file. So how can you do that? That is going to be quite simple. So first off, right, super important is to make sure that your sheet is saved as a CSV file, instead of Excel, instead of Google Docs, right, instead of numbers. And let me do that real quick. on my end. All right, perfect. So now I have my sheet saved as a CSV file. What I want to do is go into the setup dropdown, import slash export. And on this page, we're going to actually have a few different things that you can import and export. For today's call, I will be importing in accounts, contacts as well. So what you can do here is click this dropdown. And you want to click on create places, right? Because we're making these accounts for the first time. And all you have to do is click on files to upload. And let's say I click my account import, this sheet that I just made, and it should take you into this page, right? It's called step 2 where you label the columns. Now, like I mentioned, Outfield is going to have some default columns, which would be account name, street address informations, city, state, country, zip. We also have the latitude and longitude in case your accounts are not, let's say, on a street and they're in a really awkward location. But if you have the latitude and longitude, you can actually use those instead to place the pins on the map. Phone number, emails, websites, that we have link existing contacts and create new contacts. And then really anything underneath that, as you can see, like account number down to supervisor, those are the default fields that I set up. So on step 2, Outfield will do its best and try to automatically link up some of these for you. Now, of course, it will only link up if like the column header is this, the same name or it's similar enough. So like, street address one, street address two to address two. If you were to call it street one, it may not link up, but it's really simple to connect it. Just click on this drop down here, find where the label is, and you select it. So I'm just going to scroll through this. I want to make sure that my columns are labeled correctly. And once they are, all I have to do is click on continue. Now, for contacts, right? This is going to be super important since you have two options for contacts. If you're making them for the very first time, click on create contacts and links since they're not inside of Outfield. However, if they're already in, you would actually need to select on link existing contacts. However, you'll need the contact ID. And when it comes to those IDs, that's something I'm going to cover later on. But once you are done, we can go ahead, we can click on continue, and we can start the import. So while that import is running, and let's say for my example, since I have four, it was really easy. But if you have, a few thousand, it's going to take a little bit longer. So let's pretend that my import's still running. There's still some things that I want to set up. I'm going to go back into my team preference pages under setup. And here we have a few different tabs, right? We have the email report tab. This and Outfield does have some automated emails they can send out. We have, immediate activity alerts. Anytime an activity happens, you'll get an email. We've got daily, weekly, monthly reports. And we also have spreadsheets as well. This will be sent out as a CSV format. And to, take yourself off, we have this unsubscribe button to put people on. We have this email address button. You can click on add recipient and they'll be subscribed into these alerts. We've already covered the custom fields tab, which are your default fields. So I'm going to jump straight into team admin, which is your team's information. From here, you can edit any information you want. You can upload your company logo. You can change your team name, address information. You can put down your personal, your team contact info here. But scrolling down here is going to be team preferences. This is where I can go ahead and I can change some information around. I can change the time zone that they're in. There's sample mode in case you're trying to learn a little bit more about Outfield or want to see some dummy information get thrown in. You can enable it. We have a few advanced options like two-factor authentication. We have auto assign all team members to all places, which will automatically have everybody gain visibility of every account. That's something you want. You can turn it on if people are in their own, specific territories. Don't click on this option. And last but not least is lone wolf mode, which is going to hide information from your team members. And then over here are landing pages. This is where you can dictate where the first page of the Outfield web version will take you, depending on the role, like admins and users. And once you're done applying your information, just click on Save Team Preferences here. So next up, I want to cover our deals because by default, Outfield is not going to have your pipeline set up for you. It's going to be, of course, under this deals page. To set one up, you click this green button here called Add Deal Pipeline, and this is where you can go ahead and begin building it out. So for title, let's call it sales. For currency, we have the US dollar, we have a lot of international currencies. Now, if you don't see your currency or you, let's say you track sales or like your revenue in a completely different way, we have an add custom currency button at the very top. This allows you to put in the unit and then you can format that unit as well. So you can either have the unit then the number, or you can have the number then the unit, whichever one you prefer. For my case, I'm going to go back to the US dollar, and here are going to be our deal stage. So we have lead, opportunity, proposal submitted, deal accepted, any account follow-ups and closed. This looks good to me, so I'm going to keep it as is. But in your case, you are able to change up these names, right? You can name it whatever you want. You can remove as many deal stages as you want with this X button, and then you can add as many as you want as well with this plus button at the bottom. So it's going to be very customizable up to you. And once you are done, just click on Saves Deal Pipeline. And now that is going to save the pipeline inside of our system. So I'm going to go back into our import/export page, see if our import went through. Great. It looks like it says imported. That's going to let me know that it was successful. To kind of confirm it, you can actually go into your accounts tab where there's going to be two of them, places and contacts. I'm going to select on places. And as you can see, my four accounts are now here in my list view, and my pins on these maps are showing me the locations of these four accounts. Now I want to check my contacts, right? If I made and linked any contacts, I want to go to accounts, click on contacts, and now I see that my contacts are now linked up. So this is perfect, right? Everything went through correctly. And now you can go ahead and start adding in your team members. And to do that, you click the setup drop down. We go to team members at the very top. And you just click on invite team member at the very top right. And of course, we'll need their names. Let's put in Sam. Let's do Ben plus Sam. Course, this is going to be their email address, and you put their in. And but over here is going to be the row inside of Outfield. So we're going to have four rows. Viewer just only allows this person just to see what's going on. They can't do any activities. User, this is going to be for your reps, right? They're going to be using the app, making their visits. Admins are going to be more for the managers, right? So if you have, territory managers, you will want to give them the admin row. And of course, we have the owner row, and this goes up from, viewer to owner. Each one has more, kind of like more abilities than the other ones, of course, with owners being at the very top. So whenever you make your account, you're automatically assigned as an owner. Super important, right, is to make sure there's at least one owner per Outfield account, because owners are the only ones that can edit team member informations and invite team members as well. So if you don't have any owners, right, you'll have to reach out to us for us to fix it on our end. But let's say Sam is my rep and I'm going to keep him as users. I can actually click on show additional fields. So I can actually fill out some other information. I can put in their title. I'll call him sales rep. The performance role, something we'll cover later. You can throw in their personal information as well. On the sidebar are going to be some permissions that you can adjust. This will allow them from like appearing on certain things. This will allow them from, like creating accounts, editing accounts, deleting accounts. You can do this all here in the permission settings. But once you're done, you click on send invitation, and how this works is that Outfield will send them an email. The invitation is only valid for around 24 hours, so if it's been longer than that, they can't get in. All you have to do is just go back into the team members page and click on this resend invite button for Outfield to send them another invite. So from here, right, I've got my reps inside of Outfield, and what I want to do next is actually start assigning my Sam to some of these accounts because what happens is that even though Sam is inside my Outfield account, if he's not assigned to these accounts, he actually can't even see it on his end. Now, to do that, we've got two different options. The first option here is on your places list. You can click on the select action drop down, click on assign team member, right? Find the person you want to assign, click on OK. Now, if you have a massive list, let's say you have territories and each team member is assigned to a different territory, you'll want to search for the accounts. You can use this standard search bar right here in search places. However, if you have a default field in place already, it's actually super helpful to click on this advanced button, which will pull out our advanced search. This allows you to restrict your search down to a single element of the account, and one of these elements are going to be your default field. So if you have that territory default field, you can actually select it. And if it's a text field default field, you would have to, manually type in the territory. However, if it's a choice list, there will be a drop down for you to select. So essentially, you search by the default field, click on the search button. This will pull up your accounts, assign team members, and you select the appropriate team member. Now, the other way to do it, one at a time, and let me actually go ahead and finish assigning Sam to these accounts. But another way you can go to assign team members is by actually clicking on the account itself, and you'll right here, and you click on this team members tab at the bottom of our map where you can go in and you can assign team members or you can unassign team members from this account here. So next up, I actually want to talk about update imports, right? If you have new information coming through, how can you put that inside of Outfield? Of course, what we'll need is going to be, we'll need one important aspect of the account, and that's called the account ID. Now, to get that, you actually go back into our import export page under the setup portion and you go to your accounts, you click on export, and this is where we can begin exporting some information. So first off is to know what types of accounts you're trying to export in case you're trying to update places, select places. We have contacts as well, then all accounts. And down here, where all these checkboxes are all the information you can pull out, which is going to be the account information, and then someone like the activity information as well, like when was the last time an activity has occurred. So you can select any of these boxes as you like. You can select, as little as you want. However, the only box that has to be selected in case you're trying to do an account update is going to be my account ID because if I don't have the account ID, Outfield can't tell what accounts to update. So for me, I'm going to, let's say, only pull out my account ID and name. And from here, I click on Start Export, and what will happen is that Outfield will send you an email of your of the export that you've requested. Of course, the time it takes for this email to be sent out will depend on how big of a export that you're running. Luckily, since I only have 4 accounts inside of Outfield, it's actually pretty quick for me to get my email. And this is what it's going to look like on your end. Let me share the right screen here. And right, this is what it's going to look like. The first column will always be the account ID, and then we have the name as well. And then any other checkbox you selected will appear as an extra column. So now let's say that I am looking for a territory, right? I want to now add in my territory because I forgot to add it in the first place. And since it's 4 accounts, I can just all say, let's say West Houston for all 4 accounts. Make sure you save this as a CSV. Luckily, the file that you receive from our export is already a CSV, so you can actually just go ahead and save it. And to actually do this update, just navigate back inside of Outfield into our import export page. And you still want to go under import places, but make sure you click the update places instead of create places. And in case you are adding another default field, make sure that your default field is inside of Outfield already. Now I will choose a choice list. So let's say North Houston, South Houston, West Houston will be my 3 options. So now I can go into import export. I can go ahead, update my places. It's pretty simple. You just find the sheet that you created. You click on it. Now, your account ID should be matched into account ID. Now, of course, I misspelled territory, so I have to go in and I have to find the territory default field to map it correctly. And I just click on continue. Now, on step three, it's going to ask us to select our identifier, which will be our account ID, and then it will actually give you an extra option for any additional attributes not included. And you'll have two different choices. You can actually just leave the other attributes as is, which means it won't touch anything, or you can delete all other attributes. Now, what that means is my sheet that you saw me import, right? I only have account ID, name, and territory. So if I were to continue with this delete all other places attributes, it's going to delete every other information, right? It's going to delete my street address information. It's going to delete all of my previous default fields applied to it. So I want to make sure that I'm going to keep everything as is. I click on continue. I start the import, and that is going to go ahead, right? As you can see, we now have four of my accounts that were updated. Now, next up is we're going to be talking about importing deals because you may want to, import some historic information inside of Outfield. Now, in order to do this, and this is why I recommend if you were exporting out of a different system, is to always keep that other system's ID on hand because, and let me show you, first off, we need to run another export. I'm going to choose my accounts. And this time, I'm only going to pull out my account ID and then that other software's ID here. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because, whenever you get, whenever you're trying to import some deals inside of Outfield, your sheet may look something like this, where we have, like the ID of the account that had the deal. You may have the deal stage, the amounts, when it was created or closed, and maybe the notes of the deal as well. One thing you'll notice is, right, we don't have the Outfield ID. Now, luckily, since the export that I pulled out of my other CRM included the CRM ID, I can actually match everything up correctly. And so, how that works is, of course, I pull out the export of my accounts. And for me, it's only two columns, my account ID and then my CRM ID. And all I want to do is just paste them somewhere inside of my deals that I want to update. So right here. And we're going to do something that's called a VLOOKUP inside of Excel. Essentially, what this looks is it's going to look at this table here. It's going to see the account ID, the appropriate CRM ID, and then immediately match it up to my accounts here. And to do that, it sounds a little bit complicated, but it is going to be easier than it sounds. Is what we need to do is we need to keep the original IDs of the sheet at the very front column. And now what I can do is I can insert some extra columns. So I keep the original IDs here. What I want to do next is pull out the IDs, the CRM IDs from my Outfield account. And then I want to pull out the account IDs. This is like the Outfield ID of the account, right? So your sheet should be formatted like this. And what I want to do next is actually insert another column in front of it. And we'll also call this Outfield ID right here. So what you do is you do equals VLOOKUP. That's going to be, starting the function. And our first option is the lookup value, right? So we're looking at this number here in column B2. Let me actually expand this for you so we can see what we're looking at. So we do VLOOKUP, and so we're looking at this ID here, 190.198.1812. We click on comma to get to the second part of our formula, which is going to be the table. And these two pieces of information I brought over will be the table. So I want to select everything here. Of course, if your table is super long, you'll have to, of course, just make sure you select everything here. I click on comma again to go to the next part, which will be the column index number. So this is asking me from the table that I selected, what value do I want to output? And I want to output the second column, so I put 2. If your account ID, or let's see, whatever you're trying to VLOOKUP is like on the fourth column, you want to put a 4. And then last but not least is the range lookup. This is going to give you two options. It's true for a approximate match, which I never recommend doing. You want to click false for a exact match. And now we can use the close parentheses to finish our equation. Now, we're not quite done yet because there's one more thing we have to do, and that's going to be in our second argument, right? The table array. Between the column name and like the cell that it's in, you want to put a dollar sign. And what this does is really a dollar sign in Excel just turns it into an absolute value. But once I'm done, I click the drop down and you'll see that my IDs are automatically going to fill up because I'm looking at each of these CRM IDs here. I'm matching it up to what I brought outside of Outfield and I'm outputting the account ID. So once you're done here, you actually want to copy this column here, and then you want to paste it as a value because right now it's still an equation, which means, right, if we were to save it as a CSV, Outfield and Excel would read it as that equation. But since we paste it as the value, it's now that correct number. So from here, I can actually go ahead, I can delete the rest of my columns since we won't need them, and I will only include my deal information. So I have my outfield ID, the name of the deal, the stage that it's in inside of outfield, the deal amount, when it was created and when it was added to stage, and then, the lead team member, which is going to let me know what team member was in charge of this deal, and then the notes. And all I have to do is just save it as, let's say, my deal import, once again, a CSV file. Then we just go back into Outfield. We go into our import export page. We click on deals, create deals, and we just select on I gotta find it first. We just select on the file that we want to import, make sure our Outfield ID is going to be under the account ID, deal name, deal stage, deal amount would be total, date created, date added to stage, lead team member, and notes. Once these are all mapped up correctly, we just click on continue and then start the import. And then that's going to go ahead and import in those deals for us. And of course, if you do have an error, you can actually find it right here. And it looks like I have a problem with the second row of my sheet. So if you do run into a problem, you will get an error here. This is probably because I rushed through creating this sheet real quick, but essentially all you do is just double check your import, the file that you made, make sure everything looks correct. And luckily, our error finder, right, will tell you the exact row where the error occurs. So it's pretty useful to kind of just look through it and see what the problem was. So let's say for time purposes, just because we only have about 18 minutes left, there's still some other stuff that I want to show you, right? Let's go ahead, let's cover some of the other stuff like league play. This is kind of a fun little game inside of Outfield. Of course, whenever you make your Outfield account, league play is not going to pop up by it's going to pop up, but it's not built out for you. So what you need to do is, actually build out league play, which will be manage matchups here. Now, when you click this button, you'll be taken to our settings page where you first need to set up your performance league. Of course, we have the select all button. So I'm bringing out me, I'm putting Sam in it, and I click save league. And now we're the two competitors inside of here. And now I actually want to go ahead and actually create the league play system. And that's going to be under manage. And I just click on build matchup schedule for this calendar quarter. I click OK, and it's going to start building up the matchup. So now I can see, of course, every week I'm against Sam, but if you have more people on your team, you'll be against somebody different every time. Now, Performance Plus is going to drop straight down into our settings page because this is how you, as the owner, admin, right, the person that sets up the team, this is how you can go in and you can dictate league play. League play is broken up into four categories: hustle, diligence, preparation, and leadership. And each of these categories will have an action, right? Hustles are any activity inside of Outfield. Diligence is the thoroughness of those activities. Preparation is making tasks and calendar events. That's something I'll cover in a little bit. And then leadership is like the social side of using Outfield, like our chatting feature. But essentially, each one of these categories has these actions, and you're able to dictate how many performance points each action will give you. So you see, doing a check-in gives me 1 point. Perhaps I want to change it to 5 points. If it's going to be the first visit of the day, let's give them a bonus 3 points. And if it's an on-site bonus, which means they were actually at the location when they did the check-in, I want to give them an extra 7 points because I want to make sure that my team, is going to be at the location that they're at. And of course, you'll be able to go in here and you can make all of these edits inside of League Play just to really customize it for your team. And then, of course, once you're done with the customizations, you can click on save and they'll take effect. And that's kind of how League Play works. Next up, I want to cover up goals instead of outfield, right? These are kind of like these core quotas for your team. We have two different types of goals. We have team member goals and account-based goals. To set them both up, you of course click on the appropriate tab and you click the button up here that says add goals. So for team member goals, these are personal goals. Let's call this weekly check-ins. Now, what you want to do is you want to select the performance row, and that's part of league play. So you want to make sure you set up league play first before making these goals. And of course, we only have one performance row, but in case you have like an inside and an outside team inside of outfield, and they have, vastly different functions, they do vastly different things, you can actually make multiple performance rows just to make league play more fair. Now, you can make the types of goals. You can actually make them individual goals for specific team members. You can make them goals for everybody, or you can do a combined goal. I'm going to have a goal for Sam here. And then for the types of goals you can make, they're actually going to be in these our hustle, diligence, preparation, and leadership categories. So from here, I will say check-in completed. And let's say Sam is supposed to do 15 check-ins every single week. I click on save go, and that's now going to save the go into Outfield for me. And of course, if I want to kind of check his progress, I just clicking on the go. And of course, right, since I just made this go, they're all going to be at 0. But hopefully, starting next week, Sam makes those 15 weekly check-ins. So those are team member goals. Account-based goals is going to be the next tab after it. This is a little bit unique, right? Because it's no longer Sam that has to reach this goal. And let's say if I had like a larger team of five people and I have an account that buys a lot of my sparkling waters, they're one, they buy, let's say, like 6 figures worth every single month. I want to make sure that my team is doing consistent visits to that account, make sure our relationship is really great. And what I can do is add an account-based go. I can name it. So let me call it a priority account visit. I spelled that wrong. Apologies. Priority account visit. I can still select the performance row. So in case of like inside versus outside sales, and I have to select the accounts. Let's say this HEB is the account that buys a lot of our products. I want to make sure that this specific account gets 10 visits every single month. So even if Sam goes out there, let's say he does like 300 check-ins for the month, if none of them were at this HEB right here, this account-based goal will not be complete. So you're able to set up just different types of goals on your team here. Now, next up, we have a last few things to cover. It's going to be a calendar. This is how you can actually build out your rep schedule ahead of time. And all you have to do is go to this calendar page, click on add event. Before you go any further, click on this button at the bottom that's called add more events, because this is where you'll be able to create multiple calendar events and you can assign them to different people on your team. So I'm going to build out Sam's week for him. So let's say first visit, that would be his title. And let's say from today, from 4 to 5 p.m., he needs to visit an account. Let's say 99 Ranch, and let's say conduct a first visit as my title. I can actually make my calendar events repeat. We have some preset repeating functionalities here. We also have a custom button as well in case you want to set up your own custom recurrence. I'm going to keep it as does not repeat. So that's going to be his first visit. And let's say tomorrow, Sam needs to go to another account. So I say from 2 to 3 tomorrow, Sam needs to go to the HEB, and I will say first visit, right? And that can go inside of here and make sure when you're making these calendar events is to, of course, select the appropriate team member for these new events, and you can keep going and going and going to build the week ahead of them. But another thing you can do when you are making calendar events in the web version is you can add required forms. So if you know what purpose your rep is visiting that account for, you can also throw in the required form. And really, what that happens is when Sam goes in and he starts this calendar event, this form is going to pop up automatically for him to fill out. And the titles and the notes that I put in there, that will be included in the check-in automatically as well. And I just click on save, and that's going to save the calendar events for me. And I can actually see on my calendar that these two events were now created. The next thing I want to show off is tasks, right? Now, task and calendar events are very similar inside of Outfield. They're both things you schedule out ahead of time. The main difference, though, is that a calendar event is scheduled for in-person visits while a task is not, because calendar events are tied directly into our routing system. They're tied to our check-in system as well. So that's why those will be in-person visits. But then tasks should be any other type of follow-up, like phone call, email, and text message. And I will say Sam has a task to code call 99 Ranch. You select the team member for the task. And super important is to select the account. One thing though is that a task is not always account based. So if your task has nothing to do for an account, right, you don't actually have to add that account in. But since it's for 99 Ranch, I'm going to select it. I can select a due date. So let's say today at 3 p.m. Sam should go ahead and do that code call. You can add reminders as well. These will be sent out to Sam. You can send out as many as you want, but of course be a little bit conscious and mindful to like not send out 50 reminders all at once. But these reminders can be sent out within minutes, hours, days, and even weeks ahead of time, and you can receive them in one of two different ways, either as an email or a push notification from the app. And of course, you can write down some additional notes and you click on save. So now when I go in, I can actually view all team members. So I would say by all team members, I can see that Sam now has a visit today, or Sam has a task due today at 3 to do a code call. So, final thing I wanted to cover is going to be our chatting feature. So, Outfield, in fact, right, we do have a chat. They're broken down to two different categories, channels and private messages. You'll always get one pre-set up for you. Channels are public group chats. Everybody can see, join, participate in them, right? You can actually drop images, files, videos over as well. Kind of like Slack or Microsoft Teams if you used those before. And then we have private messages. These are private one-on-one chats or private group chats. So to start a channel or a private message, you just click the plus button to the next of each one. So I can add in a channel. I can call it, let's call it the summer special channel. The description is like, for the summer promo event. And then for add team members, right, I can just click on Sam, click on add. So now we have a unique channel. So perhaps this is like my team group chat for this summer event. If I need to send anything privately to Sam, I just click this plus button to the right, find the team member, and then I can start that group chat from here and, write whatever I want to Sam. But that is going to be everything that I wanted to cover on today's call.